There are moments in life when we find ourselves surrounded by negativity, people who drain our energy, stir unnecessary drama, and make peace feel like a distant dream. These are toxic individuals. They may not wear a label, but their presence is enough to unsettle your calm. You don't always get to choose who enters your life, but you can always choose how you respond. Dealing with toxic people isn't about fighting them. It's about mastering yourself. The first step is awareness. You have to see people for who they are, not who you wish they were. Many times we excuse bad behavior because we want to believe someone will change. But reality is simple. You can't fix people who don't see a problem in themselves. Awareness protects your peace. When you start recognizing patterns of manipulation, guilt tripping, or constant criticism, you learn to stop taking it personally. Their chaos is not your responsibility. The second way is to set boundaries, clear, strong, and unshakable. Toxic people thrive on overstepping lines. They test how much disrespect you'll tolerate before you say enough. Boundaries aren't walls to shut people out. They're filters to protect what matters most: your energy, your focus, your sanity. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. Every time you say no to drama, you say yes to peace. Third, never engage in their game. Toxic people feed on reaction. They crave attention, conflict, and control. The more you argue, the more power you give them. Instead, respond with calm detachment. Silence is often the loudest answer. When you stop reacting, they lose their grip. Remember, peace is power, and not everyone deserves access to it. Fourth, keep your circle small and your standards high. The people you surround yourself with shape your mindset. If you constantly walk with negativity, it will eventually weigh you down. Expect your space like it's sacred ground. You don't need a crowd. You need a few genuine souls who bring light instead of shadows. Energy is contagious. Choose wisely what you let in. Fifth, focus on your own growth instead of their chaos. Toxic people want to distract you from your path, but your best response is success. Channel your frustration into progress. Every time you rise above negativity, you weaken its power. Work on your goals, nurture your peace, and let your growth be the answer that silences their noise. Sixth, forgive, not for them, but for yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean you accept what they did. It means you refuse to carry their poison any longer. Holding on to resentment only keeps you tied to the pain. Letting go is freedom. It's saying, I choose to move forward without the weight of what you did. That choice belongs to you, and it changes everything. Lastly, sometimes the smartest move is distance. You can love people from afar. You can wish them well without staying close. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Peace isn't found in fixing others. It's found in protecting your own heart. The moment you stop trying to heal people who keep hurting you, you reclaim your power. At the end of the day, dealing with toxic people is not about revenge or confrontation. It's about peace, growth, and self-respect. Life becomes lighter when you stop trying to carry those who choose to stay heavy. So protect your energy, set your boundaries, and remember, not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people belong outside the gates of your peace, and that's perfectly okay. The first and most crucial step in dealing with toxic people is recognizing them for who they truly are. Awareness is power. So often we mistake toxicity for intensity, manipulation for care, or control for concern. But when someone constantly leaves you drained, anxious, or doubting your worth, that's not connection. That's contamination. Toxic people have a pattern of twisting situations, making you feel guilty for things you didn't do, and using your kindness as a tool for control. The sooner you recognize these signs, the sooner you protect your peace. Awareness begins when you stop making excuses for bad behavior. It's easy to say maybe they're just stressed or they didn't mean it, but patterns don't lie. If every interaction feels heavy, it's not coincidence, it's character. Recognizing toxicity isn't about judging others. It's about protecting yourself from emotional damage. When you see the truth, you take away their hidden power over you. The moment you identify a toxic person, you stop playing their game. You stop absorbing their words like truth and start viewing them as projections of their own pain or insecurity. You realize that their criticism says more about their unhappiness than your worth. Awareness doesn't mean confrontation, it means clarity. You begin to step back emotionally and see things without distortion. And that's when freedom starts. You stop letting their moods control yours. You stop feeling responsible for fixing what you didn't break. You start saving your emotional energy for people who deserve it. Recognizing toxicity doesn't make you cold or cruel, it makes you wise. It's not about building walls, it's about building gates. Gates that open for peace and close for poison. Once you've recognized a toxic person, the next powerful step is setting firm boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out, they are tools. Lines that define where your peace begins and someone else's chaos ends. Toxic people will constantly test your limits. They'll invade your time, demand your attention, and manipulate your emotions to keep control. If you don't set boundaries, they'll drain your energy without guilt. But when you clearly define what's acceptable and what's not, you regain control over your life. Setting boundaries means being brave enough to say no without feeling guilty. It's about realizing that your time, energy, and mental space are valuable. Every time you allow disrespect or manipulation to continue, you teach others how to treat you. Boundaries teach people that your kindness is not a weakness. You can be compassionate and still firm, loving and still assertive. It's not easy at first. Toxic people often react strongly when they lose control. They might accuse you of being selfish, distant, or cold. But remember, their resistance is proof that your boundaries are working. You are no longer feeding the dynamic that keeps you stuck. Over time, those who truly respect you will adapt, and those who only thrived on crossing lines will naturally fall away. Boundaries also mean limiting how much emotional energy you give to arguments, guilt trips, or endless drama. You don't have to explain yourself repeatedly or seek approval for protecting your peace. Sometimes silence is the best boundary you can draw. You protect your mind by choosing not to engage. True strength lies not in how much you can endure, but in how clearly you can say, this is not okay. Boundaries don't push love away. They protect it from being poisoned. The third way to deal with toxic people is by mastering your reactions. Toxic individuals feed on drama. They thrive when they can provoke an emotional response. The more you argue, defend, or explain yourself, the more control you hand over to them. Their power lies in your reaction. So the greatest way to disarm them is through calm detachment. When you stop reacting, you take back your peace. Silence, composure, and emotional distance are your most effective shields. Learning to control your reactions doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you choose where and how to express them. You begin to understand that not every comment deserves a response. Not every argument needs to be won, and not every attack requires defense. Toxic people often use your empathy against you. They twist your words, play the victim, and create chaos just to feel in control. When you remain calm and unbothered, they lose the ability to manipulate your emotions. Staying calm in their storm takes strength. It means choosing to protect your peace over proving your point. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is silence. Respond with logic, not emotion. Observe instead of engaging. When you remain steady while they spiral, they expose their own instability. With time, you start to notice how liberating it feels not to let someone else's negativity dictate your mood. You stop feeling responsible for fixing their emotions or reacting to their moods. By mastering your reaction, you're not ignoring the situation, you're elevating above it. You realize that emotional control isn't weakness, it's power. The moment you stop giving them the reaction they crave, you become untouchable. They can no longer shake your peace because your calm has become your armor. The fourth way to deal with toxic people is by protecting your environment. The people you surround yourself with shape your thoughts, emotions, and overall energy more than you realize. When you constantly expose yourself to negativity, it starts to seep into your mindset. Toxic people drain your strength, cloud your judgment, and make peace feel like a rare luxury. That's why it's essential to create a healthy environment, one filled with calm, encouragement, and positive energy. You can't heal or grow in a space that constantly reminds you of pain. Protecting your environment doesn't just mean cutting people off. It means being intentional about who and what you allow into your life. Limit your time with those who gossip, criticize, or bring chaos. Spend more time with people who uplift, challenge, and inspire you. Surround yourself with those who celebrate your presence, not those who compete with it. Your peace should be a priority, not an afterthought. It also means protecting your mental space. What you listen to, watch, and think about becomes part of your emotional atmosphere. When you consume too much negativity, whether from people, media, or even your own thoughts, your spirit becomes heavy. Choose peace over noise. Create quiet moments for yourself where you can breathe, reflect, and recharge. When you start valuing peace, you stop entertaining chaos. You begin to understand that not everyone deserves a seat in your life. It's okay to outgrow people who refuse to grow with you. Protecting your environment is not selfish. It's an act of self-respect. You can't control every person who crosses your path, but you can control who stays. Build an environment so peaceful that even toxic energy can't survive in it. The fifth way to deal with toxic people is to focus on your own growth instead of their chaos. Toxic individuals want to pull you into their world. They thrive on distraction and drama. The more attention you give them, the more power they have. But when you redirect that energy towards self-improvement, they lose their hold on you. Growth is the ultimate escape from toxicity. When you rise above negativity and focus on becoming better, stronger, and more peaceful, you stop operating on their level. Focusing on your growth means investing in yourself, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Instead of wasting energy on arguments or revenge, you pour it into learning, creating, and building the life you deserve. Every time you choose growth over reaction, you prove that your peace matters more than their approval. Growth shifts your focus from what they did to what you can do next. You stop asking, why did they treat me like that? And start saying, how can I grow beyond this? Toxic people hate to see you evolve because your growth reminds them of what they refuse to change. But that's not your problem. It's your power. Your calmness, your consistency, and your commitment to progress are silent weapons. Keep working, keep improving, and let your transformation speak for itself. Over time, you realize that the best revenge is not proving them wrong, but proving yourself right. You can't control their behavior, but you can control your direction. When you focus on growth, their words lose meaning, their opinions lose weight, and their negativity loses power. You start glowing differently, not because life is easier, but because you've learned to grow through what was meant to break you. Growth turns their poison into your fuel. The sixth way to deal with toxic people is through forgiveness, not for them, but for yourself. Holding on to anger, resentment, or bitterness only keeps you tied to the very person who hurt you. Toxic people often leave emotional scars that replay in your mind long after they're gone. But when you forgive, you break that connection. Forgiveness doesn't mean you excuse their behavior or invite them back into your life. It means you choose freedom over bondage. You decide that their actions no longer have power over your peace. Forgiveness is a process, sometimes slow, sometimes painful, but always liberating. It begins the moment you stop seeking closure from people who will never give it. You realize that waiting for an apology keeps you stuck, and you choose to release yourself instead. By forgiving, you reclaim your energy. You take back the space in your mind and heart that was once occupied by hurt. It's not weakness, it's strength. It's saying, you no longer control how I feel. When you hold on to resentment, you continue to carry their poison. But when you forgive, you detox your soul. You start sleeping better, thinking clearer, and living lighter. The burden of hate disappears, replaced by calm acceptance. Forgiveness is not about forgetting what happened. It's about learning from it without letting it define you. True forgiveness also means forgiving yourself for staying too long, for believing lies, or for trusting someone who didn't deserve it. You did your best with what you knew then. Now you know better. Forgive, release, and move forward with grace. Forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it changes your future. It's not a gift to them. It's a gift to yourself, one that restores your peace, dignity, and strength. The seventh way to deal with toxic people is by walking away when necessary. There comes a point when no amount of patience, kindness, or understanding can fix what someone refuses to change. You can care deeply, you can forgive, and you can set boundaries. But if they continue to bring pain and chaos, the healthiest choice you can make is distance. Walking away isn't an act of anger or hate. It's an act of self-respect. It means choosing peace over pain and realizing that love should never come at the cost of your mental and emotional well-being. Leaving a toxic person behind is never easy. You might feel guilty, especially if it's someone you've known for years or someone you truly wanted to help. But staying in a harmful environment doesn't make you loyal. It makes you lost. Some people can only learn through the consequences of your absence. When you step away, you send a silent message: I deserve better than this. That message isn't pride, it's healing. Walking away doesn't mean you wish them harm. It simply means you wish yourself peace. You can still have compassion from a distance. You can still hope they find their own growth, but without sacrificing your own. Sometimes the best way to love someone is to stop enabling their behavior. When you walk away, you take your power back. You rediscover your calm, rebuild your confidence, and reconnect with your purpose. You realize that peace is not something you find in others. It's something you create within yourself. And sometimes that creation begins the moment you close the door, not out of bitterness, but out of love for your own soul. Walking away is not giving up, it's growing up. At the end of it all, dealing with toxic people isn't about changing them. It's about transforming yourself. Awareness teaches you to see clearly. Boundaries remind you to stand firmly. Control of reaction protects your peace, and walking away restores your power. Each step is not just about survival, but about growth, about choosing peace over conflict and self-respect over approval. You can't stop toxic people from existing, but you can stop them from living rent-free in your mind. The moment you decide that your peace matters more than pleasing anyone else, everything shifts. you begin to realize that calm is not weakness, silence is not surrender, and distance is not cruelty. They are the tools of strength and maturity. This is your call to action. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into places that drain you. Stop apologizing for protecting your peace. You are not responsible for someone else's storm, but you are fully responsible for guarding your calm. Choose awareness over ignorance, boundaries over guilt, emotional control over reaction, and peace over chaos. Walk away from what poisons your soul and move toward what heals it. Because the moment you choose yourself fully, unapologetically, and completely, no toxic person can ever have power over you again.